Hi, welcome to dwcarving.com. We're going to look at power sculpting right now with a die grinder. If you get a chance, stop by dwcarving.com and have a look at our free webpage. Okay, so obviously safety equipment, glasses, ear defenders, mask on, gloves, jacket, all the whole stuff. There you go. You can see just by how it works out that the die grinder is a very powerful tool. And when you put a carbide bit on the end of it, it can be very, very powerful tool. It takes off a fair amount of wood stock as you get into this. Now, I use a die grinder at the very beginning of the larger carvings. You know, chainsaws and die grinders. When I scale down to a point where I'm using chisels and hammers. If I didn't, I'd be here for weeks and weeks trying to hammer this out with a chisel and a mallet. Be very exhausting, but this works a lot cleaner, a lot faster. Now you can see I'm sketching some designs, so as I go along I will stop, mark in where I expect to put things, make sure it's even, and then get back to die grinding and taking that out, understanding that those lines I just put in are gone within seconds, but they help me visualize where I'm going with the sculpture. In this case, a dog, obviously, and it's going to look nice when it's done. Now, you can use pretty well any type of wood. What you do have to do though, because the larger oak pieces will be heavier, you still need to secure them down. So you can see in the base of this, the dog, I've got a frame around the base that I've screwed in to hold it in place. You can see, even when I push it like in here, you see the table is moving. Now this table weighs about 300 pounds. So I'm putting a fair amount of force on that, moving it over. So your arms get tired quite quickly. But with a good carbide bit, it can take off a lot of stock, and it can be controlled. That's the other good part about it. It does take a little bit of force to control it, but you can control it to do what you want to do. See, I'm just using the air blowing off the actual die grinder itself to clean out the dust so I can see where I'm going. Now what you don't see in the background behind me is actually another air filter that's running to pull up all this sawdust in the air. If you look up at the top of the picture, you can see it moving. It's being pulled into the sawdust collector. So if it didn't, this would be a giant cloud in there of sawdust. If you ever do pick one of these up, you have to really pay attention to the safety aspects. Follow the manufacturer's, requirements, especially with the bit types, and wear all the proper safety equipment to make sure that you're safe when you do it, because they are very powerful tools. They're relatively inexpensive too. I think the bit actually costs more than the die grinder itself. Die grinder I picked up at Canadian Tire probably for about 50, 60 bucks. The bit, I think actually I paid about 150 for it. But a good carbide bit will last you a lot of years, depending on the type of wood you're using. Now you'll see here in a minute that my arms are getting quite sore, even from this short period of time that I've been using this just to make this little video. Things get a little hard on the arms after a while. You're going to take a break. Once you get too tired, you'll find you'll start to lose control of the tool, which is not good. It's always good to recognize when you need to take a break and take a break. And you can see when I flip it up and down, it's just to put my hand in the front, is to get a better grip on it, to control it better, keeping my hand away from the bit. Now this is a fairly inexpensive die grinder. You can get the more expensive ones that have the button on it that controls it to turn on and off. This one locks into time, locks into place. Once it's on, it stays on, unless you really forcefully push the trigger and turn it off. It stays on. So if you drop this or it came out of your hands and went into your clothing, you would not be able to stop it. There is no emergency stop for this one. So if you're really concerned about that, then go pick up a little bit more expensive, but it has a little bit more safety features built into it. I'm not sure if you can tell, but this particular piece is made of cedar. It's not made out of oak. The elderly gentleman I'm making it for would have an issue trying to move it around his house if it was made out of oak. So we went with lighter wood. We laminated about 14 2x8s together in order to make the size. I needed something fairly dried, so I made sure the boards were nice and dry before we went into this, just to avoid any future cracking if it's near a heater vent or anything else within the house. Yeah, you can see my hands are a little sore here. A little stiff in the arms. And of course covered in dust. Time to take a break. Oh, that's it. That's my dog. Thanks for stopping by. Have a nice day. Again, don't forget to stop by at ddbcarving.com. Cheers. Chimo.